Hey guys, it's Patrick. How you doing tonight? Look, it's been a while since I posted my last one, so we're just going to skip the preliminaries, get right into it. This is the third part of my conversation with my friend Barry Scott Will. We're going to be talking about superhero movies in this one. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and we'll see you on the other side. I've seen since they were born. I've seen a couple of the Marvel movies as a family. We went and saw the first Guardians of the Galaxy at the theater after we had discovered Drax. Because Drax is a lot of things, but he's also autistic. Doesn't get metaphor. He's very direct. He's very he doesn't get metaphor. And Sam is like that, and he kind of, I think Sam kind of got it. I think he identified more with the raccoon, but
yeah, that makes sense.
That's because the raccoon got most of the best lines.
Oh yeah.
But if someone had told me 8 or 9 years ago that I would be going to see a movie with Vin Diesel in it, and the part of the extremely large, buff, bald individual was not played by Vin Diesel, I'd have laughed at them. And then to tell for someone to tell me that Dave Bautista, a freaking wrestler, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
If someone had told me before I saw that movie that Dave Bautista was going to move me to tears, I mean, I was late 40s when that thing came out, and I'm sitting in the movie theater and I am crying as he's talking about his family. So I mean, they're doing something right.
Marvel. People talk about the Marvel formula. It's a good formula.
It works. It does.
It's amazing.
And I've got to hand it to their casting people. They've had a couple of missteps. Terrence Howard. The thing about Jim Rhodes in the first Iron Man is you're supposed to be a little afraid of him. He's not supposed to be the comic relief.
Yeah.
That was Jon Favreau's job, which he handled quite effectively. Amazingly enough, it was Jeff Bridges' job for part of it. And I knew going in, because of his name. Oh, the character's name is Obadiah Stane. He's the bad guy. Because I read Iron Man in the 80s and 90s. I know exactly what's going to happen, give or take. And it still bit me in the ass. Because Jeff Bridges was just brilliant. You sit there and you look at the number of Oscar nominations and Oscar wins in those first 5 movies, Iron Man, and even as many problems as it had, The Incredible Hulk. You had, and we got him back. You had William Hurt as Thunderbolt Ross, as horribly cast as Edward Norton was. The thing about Hulk is you have to care about Banner for the Hulk to work.
Right.
What the Incredible Hulk got right was the fights. Stupid an interpretation of the Abomination as they had, and as thankless a job as Tim Roth had playing Blonsky. The fights when Hulk is actually there, the fights are incredible. You didn't care about Edward Norton as Banner one little bit. I mean, that's where Ruffalo sold it in the Avengers.
Yeah,
Because
I like Ruffalo. Okay, I'm still a big fan of Ang Lee's. I the the final fight with his dad is stupid, but the rest of the movie leading up to that, the primal
there's
the primal rage he had to go through to actually make the transition, and
yeah,
the
there's a lot.
psychological basis for it.
There's a lot to be said for that first Hulk movie, but yeah, what really sold it, in spite of Joss Whedon's fairly he's an okay director, and he gave us one of the most phenomenal movie shots ever. A lot of people are holding up the big run through Wakanda as a hold my beer moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry that the big circular shot in New York as Tony Stark is landing, and Hemsworth is adjusting the grip on the hammer, and that
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that is possibly the single most iconic superhero shot since, oh good lord, one of the big entry set pieces from Tim Burton's Batman in '89. I mean, that shot was something I had waited 20 years for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the entire
you and I talked about, years ago. We had talked about casting Thor in like '98, and we were both looking at Vladimir Kulik from 13th Warrior, who I thought would have been a phenomenal Thor.
that was ages ago.
Oh yeah, well that was
Yeah.
ages and ages hence. That was a good 20 years ago that we were talking about that. But,
Yeah, Marvel has the one thing that DC has not quite figured out yet is how to get the right people in the roles. And the best casting job they've done so far was Margot Robbie, and she's a villain.
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen
Well, Gal Gadot's
the
Wonder Woman is she's good.
Gal Gadot's as Wonder Woman. I love that movie. I have not seen Batman v Superman.
You don't
I
want
have not
you don't
seen
want to see
Justice
it.
League. No, I really don't, because I saw Man of Steel, and I know how bad I was pumped for Man of Steel. I mean, you've got Henry Cavill, who I'm sorry, he really looked phenomenal in the part. You had Russell Crowe as Jor-El. I would have watched an entire movie, because that was some of the good stuff in that movie, was the stuff on Krypton.
Mm-hmm.
Jor-El and Zod. You had a wonderfully cast Zod, who as a character was completely wasted in the last 2/3 of the film. The lead up on Krypton, up to the destruction of Krypton, he was a remarkable villain. You understood why he was doing what he was doing. Everything was clear. Jor-El was a bad man. I'm like, and he's a scientist. Good night. What are their warriors like? And then you see Zod just laying waste, and it's like, oh, right there. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. And intellectually, Zod was not a slouch. But Zack Snyder manages to find a way to screw up, and I'm not Kevin Costner's biggest fan, but if anybody can sell baseball and apple pie, and heartland values and what it is you want your son to grow up to be like when he can, literally move mountains.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kevin Costner, and they completely wasted him on a badly written concept. Just the way they wrote Jonathan Kent was almost criminal. What I saw of Martha Kent from Batman versus Superman was just as bad. It's like, you don't owe him anything. It's like, well, you're kind of alive.
Yeah. What?
This planet just kind of kept you alive for the past 30 years. You kind of owe him that.
Yes. Snyder writes movies with superpowered people, but they're not heroes, and that's the problem with Snyder's, which is why he's more or less out.
And I at some point, someone will loan me a copy of BVS, and I'll watch and see how bad it was. I like the general idea of Affleck as Batman. I've seen of the X,
he's not bad. He's not bad.
Because I like they're bits and pieces. When I was much younger, we were both much younger when The Dark Knight came out, when Miller did the original Dark Knight Returns, which, from an artistic and a writing standpoint, I still hold that as one of the most brilliant pieces of comic art ever created. Unfortunately, from that point on, Batman had to be damaged goods. He had to be this. Almost sociopathic. Anti-hero. And I kind of appreciated that when I was younger. As I've gotten older, I've gotten less and less of a tolerance for anti-heroes.
Yeah.
And everyone writes them that way now. So, Batman can do this, that, and the other thing. It's like, guys.
Well, but then they made Superman an anti-hero, essentially.
Yeah,
and that's a big problem.
That really doesn't work.
Yeah. And they and BVS utterly ruins Lex Luthor.
I'm sitting there going, what were they thinking casting Jesse Eisenberg?
Well, he's basically the Joker light. He's a psychopathic homicidal maniac.
Yeah. I just couldn't. Someday somebody will loan that to me, and I'll watch it, and then I'll be able to give an educated diss of the movie. I'll instead of the instead of the kind of flying in blind. The only DC movie I've seen since Man of Steel was Wonder Woman, which was so much fun.
It was good. I didn't like the way they handled the ending, but it was good.
There were issues with the third act. Yeah, there are a few things, but I mean, I thought certainly the strongest thing I've seen come out of that house in a long time. I just can't quite get over what they did in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Because you turn around, you turn around from this phenomenal opening. I mean, I am just hanging off the edge of my seat. That was when I went and saw in theaters with a couple of friends, and I am just hanging off the edge of the seat, going, "Oh my gosh!" I would watch an entire movie of Russell Crowe trying to save Krypton because it was that good. The parts where they bring him back, as that recording to interact with Henry Cavill. It's like, this is remarkable. the bits with him and Michael Shannon's Zod. Both before and after the destruction of Krypton. I'm sitting here having a philosophical discussion with, my old enemy's ghost. But they completely lost touch with the character of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Because the incredibly misguided writing for the Kents, they didn't raise him to be a hero. I mean, that's what you got out of the Chris Reeve movie, and Dean Cain and Lois and Clark. The Kents raised him to be a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the oft used and abused line from Ben Parker in Spider-Man: with great power comes great responsibility. And they you get that with Chris Reeve and Dean Cain.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't get that with Henry Cavill. And I love Amy Adams, but she's horrendously miscast as Lois Lane. Sorry.
Yeah, she doesn't make much of an impact. I've seen BVS. I've seen Suicide Squad, much to my displeasure. That's a truly, truly horrible film. Wonder Woman is not a great film, but it's a good film, and in the overall scheme of things, it makes it a extremely good DC film. I have not seen Justice League, but my daughter says it's bad.
I've not heard a whole lot of good about Justice League. There are bits and pieces that work. I mean, I like Jason Momoa, but he's not Aquaman. He looks like he's a pretty cool character. I think if he had been picked up by Marvel to play Namor, that would have worked a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know. He strikes me that he would have been much better as a Submariner, which they didn't have the rights to at the time, but now that Disney owns the universe.
Well, if you can't get the lease agreements back, you just buy up the studios that own them. Next they'll buy Sony.
I'm saying I'm looking at Universal. It's like the reason we don't have a solo Hulk film is he works better as a team up.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Ragnarok yet, but everything I have seen of Ragnarok is like, I don't know how Hulk endured as a solo comic series for so many years.
Ragnarok, of the movies from the past year, Ragnarok was the best. I liked it better than Black Panther. I liked it better than Spider-Man Homecoming. I liked it better than Guardians 2. It is fun from the very first scene to the very last scene. And everything clicks. And it is a thrill a minute. It's a laugh a minute. It's fantastic.
Everything I've seen, you're just sitting here watching. It's like they get it. This is. It looks like they're having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Goldblum looks like he is having an absolute blast.
Oh,
the bits I've seen with Tessa, what's her name, as Valkyrie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Oh, everybody in there is
I adore her. She is.
Yeah. Carl Urban gets some nice little bits in there. He's hardly recognizable as Scourge, but he gets some nice bits. Loki is fun. Ruffalo is fun when he's Banner. Thor is great. There's a nice cameo with Doctor Strange that just, it's like this movie wouldn't
Yeah,
be
that was
nearly as
that
good if
that
that little 2-minute cameo weren't in there.
that casting right there, Benedict Cumberbatch as Stephen Strange, was inspired. I remember it had gotten down between him and Joaquin Phoenix, and I think Joaquin would have been interesting because he didn't get that Oscar nomination for Gladiator for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could have pulled it off, but I think Cumberbatch pulled it off a little better. I would love to see Joaquin Phoenix in the Marvel Universe, though. I don't know as who at this point, but I would love to see him, come in on the next phase. Because everybody's fixing to die.
Yeah, we don't know what.
Everything is bad is fixing to happen. I really hope that that line that Thanos has. I hope they remember you. I'm really hoping that at some point it is after he has thrown Cap over to one side, because it's like, wow, that is the last great act of defiance. I knew he was strong, but for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's amazing. As much as Marvel announces things years in advance, we hardly know anything that's coming after. We know Ant-Man and the Wasp. We know Captain Marvel. And that's really kind of it. We know there's a Guardians 3.
Yeah.
But
we know there's Black Panther 2.
There will be, yeah. But we don't even, at this point, we're not even sure that there's a Doctor Strange 2. We're not even sure if we're going to see Thor, Iron Man, or Captain America ever again. They're being remarkably reticent about what's coming next.
I can kind of understand that. I'm still, you had mentioned, I had posted that bit on Facebook a little while ago about Star Trek fans forgetting that it's a damn TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a whole lot of people forgetting that, Captain Marvel is just a damn movie. And the big stink right now is not that I have seen about Captain Marvel is the costume. And I want to reach through the screen and grab these guys and shake them and say, how many suits did Tony Stark have in the first frickin' Iron Man alone?
Yeah.
I counted at least 3. I counted at least 3.
Well, that's the Captain Marvel movie is a 90s flashback, so they're probably going for a little bit different aesthetic. On the other hand,
but I mean, she's clearly, they've come right out and said she's gonna be in the red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
They're griping about the color scheme on the costume. I was like, which I suppose if you're going to argue about something petty, let's at least because we don't know anything about the plot, as you've pointed out. We know Sam Jackson's there with both eyes. We know that. We know that we might see Sebastian Stan. You never know. They kept throwing him out at odd times. Maybe, I doubt we see Winter Soldier in that one, but
yeah, Sebastian Stan interests me because I wonder if they're going to pull what they did in the comics and Bucky becomes the next Captain America.
I think it's likely. I think they're going to wind up duking it out, though, between him and Sam Wilson.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing Anthony Mackie put that suit on.
Yeah, Mackie doesn't have the super soldier serum. So he's not really Captain America.
Well, he didn't in the comics either.
Yeah.
On the other hand, he was still throwing the shield around and flying. So
well, yeah, flying Captain America. That's a little different.
That's how they solved that little problem when some really bad writing happened and Cap got old. But I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping, because really all we've seen of Thanos is a few. I mean, and to be honest, to be fair, the menacing lines in Guardians when he's threatening to run the Starways red with Ronan's blood were quite effective. I was kind of leaning back, going, "Okay,
Josh,
me not make you mad."
yeah, Josh Brolin. I think the first time I encountered him was in Men in Black 3, and he pulled off.
When he just his near flawless Tommy Lee Jones impression.
It's like, oh, that really is Tommy Lee Jones, much younger. Oh, that CGI is really, really good.
They're doing a real good job. Wait, yeah, no, he was. I mean, I remember him from. I remember him from the Goonies, but he was a bit part. He was he was background noise for Sean Astin and
yeah. Now he's in everything.
He's two different Marvel characters. He was the only decent part of Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
Playing the title character, he did a real good job there. He had a horrendously bad movie around him. I'm wondering how he plays off Ryan Reynolds. I have no interest whatsoever in the Deadpool movies. I've never liked the character. I admire the heck out of that. I mean, that's one of the things. For the most part, since the MCU began. Not so much for over in the X-Men movies, although Hugh Jackman is a really stand-up guy, but the caliber of people, not just the acting ability, but the caliber of people they've got in so many of these roles, from and I'm glad to see that Robert Downey's turned himself around. I've always liked him, and being an alcoholic myself, I empathize greatly with his struggles. Although it never got that bad with me. But I was glad to see him turn around, and I'm so glad to see all the stuff that he does off camera, representing. He hosted a showing of Winter Soldier at his house,
Mm-hmm.
his own private theater, where which seats I think he seats 50 or 60 people. His own private thing. He brought a bunch of kids, and then they got to meet Chris Evans, who is the greatest thing to happen to Marvel, especially in their pretty much period. He has been a revelation.
I see what they've done with Captain America, and what Chris Evans has done with Captain America, and it just makes me want to grab the suits at Warner Brothers and say, "This is Superman."
This is how you can make it interesting and still have all those values.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if Chris Evans had not been believable, if he had not, if we get back to the big circle shot,
Mm-hmm.
when the team is finally, it's not 6 people with their own agendas. All of a sudden, they're the Avengers. Tony Stark, who has been established through 5 movies as being an arrogant jackass who can't follow directions, because he is literally the smartest person in the room. He's landing, and he says, "Call it, Captain." If in the short space of time between First Avenger and the Avengers, Chris Evans had not been able to sell Captain America,
Mm-hmm.
and he only had one movie to establish that. There had already been 2 Iron Man films and little cameos here and there for Downey as Stark. But I mean, that whole iconic scene where they are finally, for the first time in 2 hours, the Avengers, depends entirely on Tony Stark landing, saying, "Call it, Captain." The audience has to believe that.
Yeah.
And Evans sold it from the word go. He sold it from that first scene in First Avenger where he's getting his ass kicked in the alley, holding the trash can lid as a shield.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know when to quit, do you? I can do this all day. And you believe him. He's sitting in the damn tent with Stanley Tucci as Erskine going, "I don't like bullies. I don't want to kill anybody. I just don't like bullies." And you buy it. If he had not been able to sell it in that 98, 110, it was less than 2 hours. It was one of those relatively short Marvel movie. But if he wasn't able to sell that in the space of that movie,
Mm-hmm.
Avengers doesn't work.
Yeah, I think the iconic scene in First Avenger, the one that's like, this is Captain America, is when he's rescued Bucky and the other soldiers at that first Hydra base.
Yeah.
And they're all dead. We're going to report them missing. Captain America's dead. And then there they come marching up, Cap in the lead.
400, Cap in the lead, 400 people.
Yeah, with weapons and tanks and everything else that they've stolen from the Hydra base. And it's just, this is a leader. This is Captain America. This is what it's all about.
And the bit in that scene that sells it. I mean, the whole scene is great, but he walks up to Tommy Lee Jones, who was perfectly cast.
Movie's not the same without Tommy Lee Jones.
He is perfectly cast in that one. And he walks up and he salutes and says, "Captain Rogers reporting for disciplinary action." Because that's what he'd do.
Mm-hmm.
I broke the rules. Yeah, I rescued 400 people, but I broke the rules. I looked at the chain of command and said, "Not today." And fortunately for me, it worked. And that sold that scene. The whole scene was remarkably, and that is the guy, but you don't realize it's the guy until he walks up and submits himself for a court-martial. Because if it had been anybody else doing anything else like that, that's what would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, this Erskine promised him a battalion, and he got one guy. I don't think anybody realizes that what a fluke that was, because everybody else who has had the super soldier serum, with the exception of James Barnes, hasn't fared so well. Johann Schmidt, in that very same movie, Emil Blonsky, Bruce Banner.
I'm still hoping that at some point they can bring Red Skull back, because
I hope he's one of those surprises they have in Infinity War or Avengers 4. I'm hoping. He was phenomenal. He was a well done villain. I'm going to say that you're right though. I watched your video with the rankings, and as far as scary villains go, uh, the one that scares me the most is the man who is doing it because he doesn't have any other option for what Michael Keaton as the Vulture was just, and you're sitting going, I can kind of understand where he's coming from on this.
The look he gives Peter Parker in the car before the prom.
Yeah.
That look is just, yes, sir, I will do whatever you say, sir. Thank you very much for not killing me right now. I'm going to go away.
Thank you for letting me go to the dance with your daughter. Yeah. I am going to go right through the dance.
Yeah.
That kid. Oh my God, that kid. That Tom Holland. I'm so glad to have a Peter Parker who's the right age.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as much as I enjoyed the first couple of Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, it was obvious that Tobey Maguire is too old, and it is really sad that Alfred Molina could only appear in one movie because he was a great Dr. Octopus. But
well, and I liked the fact that, spoiler alert, they do not kill off Vulture like they kill off pretty much every other villain. They got to set up for the Sinister Six, and I get that, and I'm very, very happy about that because they need to.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm not big on anti-heroes and supervillain teams and things of that nature.
Now, part of the thing that makes comic books interesting are the recurring villains. You have these specific foes that your hero faces off against over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And they have the one-off villains here and there, but Marvel's movies so far have been all one-off villains except for Loki, and Loki works great. And I hope they can kind of do the same thing with the Sinister Six, just as a constant riff.
Well, I wouldn't mind, the Vulture training. I love the fact that they went with a comparatively minor Spider-Man. I did not want to see yet another freaking Goblin.
Yeah, I was
because you already had Willem Dafoe, who was, goofy mask and all, perfect.
Yeah, when I first found out it was Vulture, I'm like, how are they going to make this work? And then you see him in the very first trailer in that suit, and you're like, okay, they made it work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Vulture, and that was before we'd even known they were casting Keaton, because for the first trailer you didn't really see him, you saw the suit.
Yeah.
And suit's scary, suit very effective. So yeah, that was that was a wonderful thing to see. So I'm looking forward to that. I would not mind at all seeing Michael Keaton return. I love the fact that he didn't sell out.
Mm-hmm.
Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the fact that he was smart enough to figure it out. I'm not sure I was ready for an age-appropriate Aunt May.
Yeah, that's.
I like. Wait. No. She'd be about the right age. Aunt May was never this hot.
Yeah, Aunt May in the comics was always more like Grand Aunt May.
Yeah.
And
it's like, wait a second. She really is his aunt, because she's. It's like, I could theoretically I could have a. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little. I wasn't ready for an age appropriate Aunt May. I'm not objecting. Anything that gets Marissa Tomei more screen time is fine by me. But
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they actually build off of that final scene in Homecoming where she sees him in the suit.
Yeah, where she. I think they wind up. Just the way things look in the trailer, I think they almost have to. Yeah, how bad do things have to be where you're putting on your mask, hanging out of the bus? Where's everybody else on the bus? He sure doesn't seem to be worried about secret identity at that point.
Yeah.
How'd he get on the outside of the bus? Yeah.
Well, if you look at the scene, he's like clinging to the bus with his feet because at one point he's hanging off out of the window, and then he's got both hands pulling the mask over. It's like, how is he sticking to the bus?
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to this.
All right.
Hi,
so
I'm Peter I'm Peter, by the way. Doctor Strange. Oh, we're using our made-up names.
Yeah.
I'm just going. Whoever wrote that?
That was a nice little bit. These little bits. Let's talk about this plan of yours. It's good, except it sucks. Yeah, that's Star-Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the Stark Raccoon interaction. That's that's kind of what I'm waiting for.
All right,
because Rocket really is one of the smartest people in the room.
Well, then you got throw Shuri into the mix.
I haven't seen Black Panther yet, but I've heard enough about her to go, oh, I love her.
Oh, she's a tech genius on par with, if not better than, Tony Stark.
Sweet.
And what's really interesting here, and it's not the same character, but what's really interesting here is in the comics, for a little while, Iron Man was a 15-year-old black girl.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we might see Shuri in the Iron Man armor at some point in the future. That would be totally
Shuri
cool.
Shuri instead of Riri Williams. Shuri instead of Riri Williams.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be interesting. That could be really interesting.
Vibranium Iron Man armor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. Okay, so Disney owns Fox now. Are we going to get a decent Fantastic Four movie, or can it not be done?
I think it can be done. I was really upset that the thing that wound up killing it was the horrible casting for Doctor Doom.
Yeah,
I thought Ewan Griffith. Ironically enough, I thought Chris Evans was a great Human Torch. The movie he was in was terrible. I thought Michael Chiklis was very well done as Ben Grimm. And I'm still trying to figure out why they thought making Jessica Alba a blonde was a good idea.
It wasn't that bad of a movie. Doctor Doom's character was bad, but the movie was not that bad, and it captured the Fantastic Four, I thought, pretty decently.
I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy Silver Surfer as much. Doug Jones getting another thankless job doing motion capture that somebody else would wind up voicing. But the one good thing about Discovery was him actually getting to use his own voice. The second Hellboy was good. He had fun with the second Hellboy. And as much as I love David Hyde Pierce, I was like, Doug Jones could hold his own on the voice. I don't know why he had to. But Doug Jones getting another thankless part, and I don't dislike Julian McMahon. I just didn't think he was the right guy for the part. And the writing, we keep coming back to this because that's what I do. the writing sucked. The writing for Doctor Doom was terrible.
Yeah. I just
Uh,
that's why
the
I'm trying to figure out how you do a decent Fantastic Four movie. I'm sure Marvel can figure it out.
Oh, they'll find a way. They're gonna do like they're gonna have to do like they did with Spider-Man. I thought Captain America: Winter Soldier was the best Spider-Man movie in 12 years. I didn't like the Andrew Garfield films at all. Although I do have to credit them with continuing the Benjamin Button trend from from the Raimi Spider-Man films through Sally Field to Marissa Tomei. She's just Benjamin Buttoning through the.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, and that was part 3. Appreciate you coming by today. Usual things. I'm sitting a little more centered than I usually do. I'm not having any extra graphics over here on the side. So, anyway, go subscribe, like, get yourself notified on both of our channels. All the information you need is going to be down there in the description of the video. I've talked a lot about future products in the last couple of 3 videos, so I'm not going to bore you with it now. I'm just going to say thank you for coming by. Thank you for sticking with me this long. And we'll see you shortly. Take care. Bye-bye.